Well, 2014 was a massive year for the Northern Beaches property market. But where's it all going to go in 2015? Will we see more growth? Will we slow down? Will investors continue to buy? Here to discuss the market with me is Mark Novak, owner of Novak. Mark, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Tim.
And the Northern Beaches market is a big variable area. So, looking, and you're across all of it with your company. So just in general, what are you sort of trends are you sort of seeing in 2015?
Well, look, the market's always been, when you go back over the last sort of 30, 40 years, when it slows down, it happens slowly. When it gets really healthy, it happens slowly. So it's a bit like a train; it doesn't stop and start really quick. So it was a phenomenal year last year. So, I think this year again we're going to see some great growth. Is it going to be greater than 2014? I don't think so, but I think it'll be a similar market. So probably around that 10 or 15% capital growth, I think would be great and likely.
Okay. Are there some suburbs or areas in particular that have sort of lagged behind and might pick up a bit compared to their neighbours this year?
Yeah, most property professionals always look to infrastructure, and often when there's good infrastructure that comes in the area does well. So we've got the Frenchs Forest Hospital being developed, so that's quite exciting for everyone on the Northern Beaches. So I think surrounding suburbs there, and then with DY there's a development of about 450 units which has been lingering for a long time, and I think when that comes into place and all the infrastructure and retail around that, they're going to be two hot spots in the suburbs around that. I think are all going to benefit with capital growth.
Yeah, DY's had like masses of unit sales over the last year or so. Is this what's happening to the suburb? Like, is it really going to transform and get gentrified?
Yeah, it definitely will. Look, you've seen each 10 years for DY has brought a lot of life into the area. So when you look at it compared to the 80s, to the 90s, to the early 2000s, very different suburbs. So and again, the gentrifying, so people are selling, particularly that forest area. We call it suburb churn, where Manly has had a churn through generations, probably 5 or 6 times or more. Whereas Frenchs Forest has really just gone through, and that forest area gone through its churn. And when you get that churn, so the old families selling, the young families buying, the old families have to go somewhere. So they don't want a yard; they want something a little bit of a trophy. So good properties in DY have done particularly well from people downsizing, and other beach suburbs like Narrabeen and Manly have done really well with apartments as well.
Okay, and what about rentals? I know you do a lot of commercial work as well, and how's that market looking this year?
I think that it's had a bit of a hard time through that GFC, and it's even more so dependent on sentiment. So residential is always even if the sentiment's sort of down a little bit, it's still been quite a strong market. But the commercial and sentiment's down, people really pull back. So now that the sentiment's been good in the market, people are making money, particularly through residential. We're seeing the sentiment come now into the commercial, so that's doing really well. So people are paying a little bit better rents, and the sales prices are starting to come back as well. So we just had a sale that we'll talk about previously, which was a record sale for the suburb of Brookvale for last year, and it's positive.
Yeah, and is Brookvale sort of a good place to invest if you're looking to buy into commercial?
I think so, yeah. It's more, obviously the bulky goods have sort of moved out west a little bit more, and it's the, again, those sort of people don't want to travel into the city. They want to have that beach lifestyle. Brookvale's really good. So some great gyms have come. Like gyms has been the big thing. A lot of gyms are coming to the area, and that's really brought some great people. And so the area is definitely bustling along.
Are we seeing more sort of companies opening up on the beaches in general, like with office buildings and that sort of thing? Because I mean the traffic is getting pretty tough to get to the city every day out there with the Spit Bridge and everything. Are people sort of relocating out there?
Look, if it's a fast-growing company, they generally will grow out of the the area. But the smaller sort of people that don't want to be working from home. They've got they're a small business. Yeah, they're in the area and doing well. So good infrastructure around there as well in that Brookvale area.
Yep.
So no, it's good.
And just in general, I guess I've noticed recently that there's only, say, 1 or 2 suburbs left in the Northern Beaches now where the house median is under $1 million.
Yep.
Are there any sort of places you can buy into to still get good value or a bargain, or is it just so hard to buy at market value these days?
The suburbs that are, the anchor's always the beach. So the further you go from your beach, it's better priced. So there's areas like in Cromer, that forest area. I still think really good buying. And a big thing that I'm seeing is granny flats. So a lot of people are extending themselves a little bit more on their property purchase, and then they're getting the blocks have to be bigger than 450 metres squared. They're going to build a granny flat, spend $100,000 or so on that, and they're going to get maybe $500 or $600 a week rent. Yeah. So it makes that repayment ability for a young couple with a family so much easier.
Yep.
So something to keep in mind, and a good recommendation is push yourself a little bit more if you can, and get an income through a granny flat.
And some of these places further away from the beach maybe might entice a few first home buyers back into the market this year. It's been a bit slow, hasn't it, on the first home buyer front?
Yeah, look, there was it was really active for a long time, and I think it fed a lot of first home buyers, and for a new property, there's still really good incentives for new home buyers, phenomenal incentives for home buyers. So I think with a lot of developing going on, it won't be around that sort of incentive for a long time. But you can, a first home buyer can get 35,000 back from the government on a new purchase, depending on the pricing. But it's phenomenal. So I think that's a part of the market to watch, because the steam came out a little bit. But very good buying still if people parents can help kids into a property. Excellent.
Yeah, and Manly and the surrounding areas have been a strong market for a long time now, or for a couple of years. So I guess, like, with interest rates where they are now and more growth predicted, like, how far can it go? Like, when are we going to see prices start coming off, in your opinion?
Look, when we say prices coming off, it's different to places around the world. When it comes off, it really comes off. It's half, or it's three-quarter, down 20%. But as you can see from the graph that we've supplied, you can see it generally just take levels. So when people say the market comes off, it means you've still got, generally growth, but just not as much. So maybe it could be as much as a 1% or just level, and you'll see that on that graph there. So I think to look to the past is a great idea to guess what the future is going to do. I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes, but you'll see it go level up over a 5 to 10 year period. You'll see those cycles. So I think it'll do something like that. And having said that, it's another good reason to say that the market we're not spent. It's it's still got some growth potential there when you see that graph.
Great. Okay, Mark. Thanks very much for joining me. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for your time. Cheers.